Disclaimer: this video contains minor spoilers for Persona 5 Royal. Hello and welcome to Every Persona Explained, where we take a look at the origin and representation of every persona. I'm your host Winwright, and today we are taking a look at Vanadis. Vanadis is the awoken persona of Kasumi Yoshizawa, and Vanadis is just Freya. This means we're discussing Norse mythology, or as I prefer to call it, the traditional Norse religion, and that means I get to complain about sources. The two main sources for the traditional Norse religion are the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda. Problem is, both of these sources were written about the 1200s, 2-ish hundred years after Christianization. This is evidenced in the preface to the Prose Edda just being a summary of Genesis. So keep in mind during this video that the information we're working from isn't a perfect representation of the faith. Anyways, Freya, Norse goddess associated with fertility, magic, wealth, and maybe war? Now, one of those is definitely not like the other, so let's get into it. Her and her twin brother Freyr are both actually fertility deities, which is cool because most of the time dudes aren't actually associated with fertility, even though you need two to tango. In the Prose Edda, it is said that she literally cries gold, which means you can just have her watch a sad movie and you'll be rich. Probably bad for the economy though. She's also the one who first taught humans the shamanistic magic, Sadir. Magic that could tell the future and also shape it. So we got fertility, magic, and wealth. What's war doing here? We all know about Valhalla, the place where fallen warriors go in preparation to ride out with Odin when Ragnarok comes, and have an awesome world-ending battle. Well, apparently, Freyja has this too. Her realm is called Folkvang, and she gets half of the fallen warriors. Neat, except maybe not, because it looks like there may be some confusion between her and Frigg, another goddess who's married to Odin, and actually the only goddess who's more powerful than she is, and she's also a goddess of fertility. And I warned you this stuff was confusing? So where does the name Vanadis come from? Freya is married to this guy named Odor, and he likes to adventure. He apparently just wanders off and does who the hell knows. But Freya is extremely dedicated to him. So she also goes out trying to find him. I would be annoyed with myself if I didn't tell you how she got around, so quick aside. Freya has 3 means of travel aside from walking, I guess. First, she has a cloak made of feathers that allows her, or anyone using it, to fly. This is badass, and I'm annoyed this isn't one of the common items used in fantasy. Secondly, she has a chariot that's pulled by cats. This is hilarious because if you have cats, you know that this is the most unrealistic part of this entire cosmology. Finally, she has a boar companion named this that she can use as a mount. Anyways, it's during her travels that she picks up a bunch of different names, including Vanadis. Vanadis means the dis of the Vanir. And no, I didn't understand either. Dis seems to just be a generic term for goddess, so that's not too helpful. So what's a Vanir? Unlike, say, the Greek pantheon that's all one big happy, way too close family, Norse gods aren't one terrifyingly homogeneous group. Most of the gods you know, Odin, Thor, Loki, are a group known as the Aesir, and they come from Asgard. But there's another group called the Vanir who come from Vanaheim, which might be a different realm, but what is and isn't a realm is poorly established, and I'm not going to get into that mess. Sometime in the past, the Aesir and the Vanir went to war. Neither side could win, and they eventually called a truce and exchanged hostages. Freya and her twin brother Freyr are 2 of those hostages. She's also the owner of a necklace known as the Brisingamen. And it's important because reasons. It comes up by name a couple of times in the Eddas, but why it's important isn't established. When Freya appears in stories, it's usually not as the main focus. She shows up to lend her feather cloak or to be an object of desire for a giant, but that's mostly it. One exception is the poem. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. It means Hyndla's poem, and it's part of the Poetic Edda. In this poem, Freya goes to see a giant named Hyndla, a seeress, to learn about the ancestry of one of her companions, Otar. Not the one from the Siegfried story. Hyndla recounts Otar's ancestry and then calls Freya promiscuous and accuses her of being, intimate with goats. Then one or the other or both start throwing fire around, and the poem ends with Freya asking the gods to favor Otar. Yo, what the? And that's Vanadis, or Freya, really. So how is she represented in game? Fine, I guess? I couldn't find a physical description, and traditional visual representations of her are scarce, so we're working with limited resources. She has feathers, representing her feather cloak, and her collar might be representative of her famous necklace. And that exhausts what the literature says about her. And since it has both, it's good. Or at least it's as good as we can get. I do think that her having many names links to Yoshizawa decently, though. In Reloaded, Vanadis is in the Star Arcana, and in Royal, she's in the Faith Arcana. Star means faith, spirituality, and inspiration, which fit with her being a goddess, if you squint. Faith is an odd arcana since it's not in a standard tarot deck. It comes from the Visconti Sforza deck, which is older than the standard decks, and it can mean faith, shocker, religion, and belief, which fits without having to squint. These two arcana seem to have a number of similarities to me, and they work decently well with Yoshizawa more than any of the personas. Her moves are really lackluster. She gets mostly light moves and physical moves, usually sword related. Light moves work well because she's a goddess, and the sword moves I don't really get. I didn't find anything sword related with her, and maybe it's just for Yoshizawa. She does have a unique move in Masquerade. It's just a physical move, and again, might just be Yoshizawa related. Her unique trait is Veil of Midnight, which, first off, amazing name. Second off, while the effect isn't anything special, the name might be in reference to her feather cloak. And she's a character persona, so she doesn't have itemization. Overall, she's fine. With our limited information, there's only so much that can be done, and this design is good. So it gets a pass. I always find learning about Norse stuff interesting, but also frustrating. Because our sources are so not authentic to the traditional religion, it's really hard to say with any confidence, yes, this is how it was. So we kind of just gotta work with what we have. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Let me know who you want to see next in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Every Persona Explained.